All right, guys, welcome to Habits You Love. Yes, you are now watching the show as opposed to just listening. Today is an amazing day. It's a full circle moment for me. I want to introduce my guest, Megan Howell. About 3 months ago, I had the idea that I wanted to start creating merchandise as a way to get some grassroots marketing out there for the podcast and spread positivity. And I wanted to be able to give back as well. And within a couple of weeks, I had went to an event, and it was Megan's event for her nonprofit, Second Heart Homes. And I was like, perfect. This is going to be the first nonprofit that I'm going to donate to. So we didn't end up meeting that night, but we ended up meeting up several weeks later. And now here we are. And you are my first guest as my Habits You Love show. So I'm excited to dive deeper into your story, into what you're doing now. The event that I went to was an auction, an art auction, and all of the proceeds, all the donations were going to Second Heart Homes. So let's walk through a little bit of Second Heart Homes and what it is, how it got started, and we'll get to where you are today.
Great. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for having me. It's very nice to see you again.
I
I've
know.
seen you, apparently you're at the art auction. I didn't get to see you.
Yeah.
But then when we needed a call for volunteers, you so quickly volunteered your boyfriend.
Got him first.
And then yourself. And that was just wonderful. And that was to open our 8th home, which is our 3rd women's home. So at Second Heart Homes, our mission is to revive the dignity of the homeless and mental health population through housing support and love. And it started, I'm the executive director and founder, where I was a waitress at Patrick's downtown, a local beloved burger joint.
And which I've never been to. Is it still open?
It is.
I need to go.
And I hear on Friday nights there are a dance club and like a rave. I'm like, wow.
Okay, now I really need to go.
Burgers have come a long way.
Rave burgers.
Yeah. So I was a waitress, and I became friends with a homeless gentleman who was living on the sidewalk, who used to be a professor in upstate New York. He had been homeless for 25 years, yet we never really talked about homelessness because I figured if he wanted to talk about it, it was pretty obvious. And so he never brought it up. So never did I.
Yeah.
I was going to school. I wanted to be a therapist. I had come from working the music festival scene and manning the trip tent and making sure people didn't get Baker-acted in a different state. They didn't lose their friends and, could calm down and, just experience some peace in the moment and be rehomed, essentially.
Yeah.
I'd say, hey, fish would make me cry too. Here, listen to some Moby. We're going to be all right.
This is all tying together with what you do now.
Yes. I was also homeless as a child with my mother and autistic brother. So we were escaping a domestic violence situation. And I was about 4, maybe 5 years old, hadn't entered kindergarten yet. And we just left in the night with black trash bags, and that was it. And no one wanted to help us. My mom also didn't want to get us taken away by DCF, and our homelessness was brief, only a few weeks. At the time, no one could really understand. That's why we weren't receiving much help. They're like, hey, you're just being hit. Why would you leave a stable household and put your children through that? It just different time and different place. But it was brief, and so I spent a lot of my life growing up with my older autistic brother being the older sister, showing him really how life works as I was fumbling and figuring it out too. Because he requires a lot of patience, a lot of practice and understanding. We were told that he was never going to excel past the 3rd grade. He was always going to be violent, essentially a mute, and never really have much of a life. My mother got every book she could on speech therapy and proved all the therapists wrong and taught him how to speak. He graduated with a regular education diploma He's been working for 23 years at the same grocery store, and he rides his bike 3 miles there and back
Yeah.
and goes to the gym, and he has a purpose. So that's
Exactly.
really important. We all have to have a purpose, and for him or myself or yourself, life purpose can look differently, and we have to keep that in mind
Mm.
that he can't handle a giant social circle like I could
Mhm.
or you could.
Mhm.
That's not his idea of happiness. So happiness and purpose is individualized, and we'll come back to that. But fast forward, friends with this gentleman. He told me lots of complicated stories that I cannot confirm or deny. Um, but he needed someone to listen to him and not dismiss his perception of reality. And I was the person. So years went by, about 8 years before he went missing off the sidewalk one day. And I knew something was wrong. Like, this is where he lives.
Yeah, yeah,
He
this
would
is his
not,
home.
exactly. He would not just dip.
Yeah.
And I remembered his real name. He had been featured in this terrible publication that would just show everybody's picture when they got arrested.
Mhm.
And I shamelessly looked at it
Yeah.
and learned that that wasn't his real name and just kind of stowed that away because I didn't want him to think I was a secret FBI operative or anything
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah.
So,
Mm.
but when he went missing, that was very important information. I checked the jail, he wasn't there. And then I found him in the hospital where he'd been
Mhm.
picked up for a medical emergency that almost took his life.
Mm.
And I said, "What are your discharge plans?" He
Mhm.
told me he was ready to get off the streets, which is nothing he'd ever said to me before. I had no clue what to do, honestly,
Yeah.
but I knew I had been placed in his room at that time for a reason. And so I had to just run with it, right?
Yeah. We'll
So
figure it out along the way.
exactly, as a lot of
As a lot
things
of
to
your
come out.
life, yeah,
Yeah.
has led up to.
So, I wanted to see if he had an open case, so I checked that out, and he did. It was something for, like, trespassing, some or outdoor lodging. I got in touch with his, public defender, and then from there, I was able to get in touch with the family who he had been
Mm.
estranged from, and they really wanted nothing to do with
Mm.
him. But I became the mediator because he wanted nothing to do with them either.
Yeah.
So then suddenly, things could get done on his best interest. And he needed to go to a skilled nursing facility. I had convinced his family to pay for it. He had to learn how to walk again from the medical emergency he suffered. And he was not easy to convince to go to that. Like, yeah, it's non-smoking. You won't be able to smoke there.
Oh.
So I bought him about $400 worth of essential oils that
Mm.
he requested. Jojoba, lavender oil, tea tree
I just
oil.
heard that word for the first time yesterday.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never heard it.
It's a tough one. I went to several places looking for it, and I didn't know it was spelled Jojo. So I was looking for hobo
Oh,
oil.
yeah. Ho-ho oil, H-O-H-O.
Yeah, Elysian Fields is like, "What?" And
I'd
then,
probably do the same thing.
right? And then I'd come back, he'd say, "No, no, no, they have it at Publix. They have it at Publix." And finally, I said, "Spell it." And I looked at it, I said, "Oh, okay." And I went in there, it
The
was right in
homeless
there.
man is teaching you something.
Yes, about essential oils that Elysian Fields couldn't. So, yeah, kind of funny. So bring him all these oils, and he was very happy to cover his body in them because that's what was his kind of deflector from everything going on. Because when you're homeless, you're a couple things. There are bugs attracted to you, mosquitoes, right? You've got the sun, and you've got intense loneliness. And you got people looking down upon you. I mean, when you're laying on the sidewalk, you literally have people
Yeah.
looking down upon you and judging every moment of your life. He was out there um, cleaning his toes and bathing and stuff in
Mhm.
a very kind of music festival way. Like, hey, still have my shirt on. I got this
Yeah.
wet rag,
Yeah, yeah.
like, but it's even though you're surrounded by people, it's very lonely. And so he agreed to go to the skilled nursing facility, and the social worker there told me that it was a waste of my time and a waste of his time and a waste of her time because he was a flight risk, which he certainly was. And I know they've seen that play out, so it wasn't, completely invalid, right? But I said, listen, lady,
You have no clue.
Yeah, what it's taken to get here right now.
Yeah.
So I said, all right, challenge accepted. It's all about how you frame the situation, what kind of perspective you want to take. Do you want to take it as defeat, or do you want to take it as, where do we change, and how can we move forward?
Yep. What
Right?
am I going to do with this obstacle in my way?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I love how the solution lies in the problem. So I said, well, he stayed at the hospital every day when I came and visited. Maybe that'll be enough here. So someone's got to bring him cigarettes and, and sketchbooks
and his oils.
And his oils. So every single day for about 6 months, wheeled him off the property so he could smoke all his cigarettes and talk about being the missing Kennedy baby and other things. And
how old was this man?
Well, this was about 7 years ago. So at the time he had to be 56.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and he used to be a professor. I mean, he was brilliant, very tangential. I mean, it was hard to follow, but it was also the most interesting person I'd ever talked to.
Yeah.
Ever.
Kept you coming back for more.
Yeah. And he's so nice.
Yeah.
This could be like, my father or my brother or something of that nature. And he was a sharpshooter. He told it how it was. And maybe he is the missing Kennedy baby. I don't know. It's
cannot confirm or deny, but
yeah,
it's out there.
So, every day showed up. And when I saw him, sometimes I would cry that he was still doing it. And he'd be like, what's wrong with you? I'd be like, you're here. He's like, okay.
Yeah.
And then he was going to be discharged after he healed. And they were going to discharge him to the streets, which is what happens if there's not a place. It's not necessarily their fault. But I was a volunteer property manager at a 110-unit apartment complex, cleaning out old rooms before they were situated for people to move into, laying tile, painting, cleaning, bug extermination, using a machete in a ravine. I just wanted experience with power tools and whatever I could do and clean. And so I asked the property owner at the time, I said, hey, I've got this guy who has a 25-year gap in rental history. And
he needs a place to stay.
Yeah, and he's a little complicated, a little rough around the edges. I didn't really candy coat it. I wanted them to know what the barriers were first.
Yeah.
And then say, well, I will make sure money gets from point A to point B. I will make sure that his medical care is coordinated. If he has, outpatient appointments, I'm going to help them make them, attend them,
You're amazing.
Schedule them,
oh my gosh,
understand them, and then help him go grocery shopping, help him clean his place. All these things that he needs kind of reset on. And if there was ever an issue, it would be my issue before anybody else's, and I'd have him out in an hour. No evictions court, none of that. They said, sure, whatever.
Oh, okay. That was a little too easy.
Yeah, I was not prepared for that.
Yeah.
So that was the genesis of Second Heart Homes, because I thought, wow, this gentleman who had been homeless on the street corner, homeless for 25 years. And imagine how many times he's, people have tried to help him and given up on him and all these things. And here we go. He's housed.
Just like that.
Yeah. So if that's then possible, there's more to accomplish. And from there, I opened up an LLC and started subleasing places all over the community and running that same model, getting a lot of difficult people off the street that everyone had lost hope in. And there was another gentleman named Michael who he was homeless for 25 years, and he used to be a Golden Glove boxer in New York City.
Wow.
Yeah, where do the symptoms of a traumatic brain injury stop and schizophrenia start?
Mm.
Symptoms can mimic each other.
Mhm.
It's very hard to treat.
Yeah.
And so, between the two of them, getting those two gentlemen off the streets,
Mm.
that's 50 years
Mm.
worth of
Wow.
homelessness,
Wow.
which is just
And
like,
2 people.
yeah, two people.
Yeah.
And I had several more, but started learning that this was a precarious, it's not a stable model. All it took is one incident where a landlord didn't want to rent anymore because we were subleasing. Um, it took someone just to decide they didn't want to be a landlord anymore. They sell their
Mhm.
complex or, whatever that
Mhm.
is.
Mhm.
Or just, I mean, I could go on and on and on
Yeah,
about
so
how
many different,
unstable that is.
yeah, situations that could occur
Mhm.
or that could be gotten in the
Yeah.
blink of an eye.
And we couldn't really decorate the way that I wanted to,
Mm.
and I was still working at Patrick's,
Mm.
and I was teaching origami in the school system and just
Yeah, I was
kinda.
gonna ask, what were you doing? You were still at Patrick's at this time.
Mhm.
This is another full-time gig you
Yes.
basically just took on for no
Yeah.
money, volunteering, doing the origami. You must've been really busy.
Yes, and it was, had to provide some clients with cigarettes or groceries or, whatever, or be available for that late night call when they
Mhm.
wanted to discuss something before it turned into a crisis.
Mhm.
So it was 24 hours essentially. So I started having less shifts, and it's also in college.
Oh my gosh.
And, it's just all the pain all at once. We'll
Yeah,
take it.
yeah.
Right. And, but started really seeing a change in people's
Mhm.
lives. And that was what was the fuel to keep going on.
Yeah, definitely.
So at some point, I met my business mentor who taught me so much, so much. And someone told him about me, and he came into Patrick's one night and handed me his business card and said, "Call me." I said, "Okay." And I remember being kind of frustrated because I looked him up online, couldn't find any trace of this guy
Mhm.
online. I was like, "Oh, this is kind of
Oh,
suspect." Turns
no.
out he just doesn't have much of a trace online, and
Mm.
really became the most incredible mentor even to this day. Taught me so much about business, sustainability, growth, and sometimes one step forward, two steps back.
Mhm.
And because he had dealt with a lot of that in his professional
Mm.
life, and so he's like my
Yeah, what a
cheerleader.
blessing
Yes.
to have that just come into your life.
Oh my gosh.
So you weren't
Definitely.
looking, right? You just
No.
came in.
Just
Oh,
kept rolling with the
yeah.
LLC, and then he came in and, looked at it and loved it and really, believed in the cause and how it was being accomplished, but then we said that this model wasn't sustainable if we wanted to grow and help more people. So, we talked to, a lot of other individuals that had nonprofits and looked at the pros and cons and, just thought we need to turn this into a nonprofit to make it sustainable. And so we did. Right after I finished my master's degree in Tokyo
Mm.
on mental illness, and
Mm.
that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
I lived with a schizophrenic homeless man on the streets that thought I was Cyndi Lauper,
In
and
Tokyo?
yes,
Oh,
yeah, I
wow.
went for
Yeah, we
several
we need
small
a whole
trips.
'nother episode
Yeah,
on that adventure.
yeah, yeah. And I think he's off the streets now. I still go and search for him, and as I have friends who go, I give them the GPS coordinates of where he hung out, and
Oh my
he's never there.
gosh.
So that's good news. I
Yeah.
think. I hope.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I digress. Started the nonprofit on January 1st of 2020. We took some time because I actually got news while I was in Tokyo. I remember going to the 7-Eleven because they have Xerox machines, and I was executing documents
Oh my
and like a
gosh.
14-hour time difference because there was no time to wait. And I was working on the website, doing my thing, just and then we had this very strategic changeover because we just, if you have a chance to make it, January 1st on the books, why not?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we took everything, which was nothing, and donated it to the nonprofit, and then shut down the LLC and commenced operations January 1st of 2020.
And
And
at that point, what had you had?
gosh, we must have had
Did you have houses? How many
no
people?
houses. We had like 25 subleased
Okay.
apartments.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and we started rehoming them in this time period,
Mhm.
right? And then at one point, we got an opportunity. Actually, we had one house that was subleased. We had an opportunity where someone was going to purchase a home for us and rent it to us for like 35 years, something
Mhm.
where we don't have to worry, and we can run that. And then a week away from closing, COVID hit.
Oh, man. So that was in 2020.
Yeah,
Oh.
and they're like, "Well, I don't really know what's gonna happen with my company, but if you can figure out the financing, then it's yours." I said, "Okay."
Mm.
So I started raising money, and then
Enter silver lining.
yes, they said, "Keep the earnest money, do the thing." All the inspections were done,
Mm.
it was just boom, ready. So I raised money. I started calling all my old regular customers from Patrick's and
Mm.
saying, "Hey, remember when it started on the sidewalk?
Mhm.
Well, now da, da, da," which a lot of people had been following, but
Yeah.
said, "I need your help now."
Yeah.
Raised the money.
Now's the time.
Mm-hmm. Raised the money, bought the house, and then suddenly had an asset to the
Mhm.
organization.
Mhm.
So that was a big deal as we were, had a place to move
Mhm.
people into, and then we're rehoming other individuals by working with other organizations and kind of hit reset in a way.
Mm.
But it was, it provides the stability that our clients need.
Mm.
They know they're coming to a home. It's not going to be sold from underneath
Mhm.
them. The management isn't going to change, anything like that. And so glad this came up. This is a men's home, which we work with a local art gallery. When you went to the art
Yeah.
auction, Mr. Paul Sykes of Art Avenue
Yeah.
donates all the art to all of our homes
That is
now.
so incredible. All of the art
Yes.
is donated and a lot of the furniture as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we actually just partnered with Ringling students to provide these artistic murals. So it's really fun to work with them. Just kind of had a couple ideas and said, "This is the color palette. Let's,
Yeah.
have at it. Make me proud." And because they're way better at it than I am. And a lot of these things are donations. How do you make them come together and make a cohesive environment? And mental health is rooted in our environment, whether
Mhm.
that's the things around us, the people around us, the situations happening because of us or sometimes to us, however you want to look at it.
Mhm.
But what you need is safe, stable home as a foundation to be anything, to have
Mm.
purpose,
Yeah.
to feel safe. Looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you really have to start with safety,
Mm.
and then okay, food and sustenance. Yeah, there we go. So physiological needs, and then okay, the actual feeling of safety. So not just your environment. So okay, where are you going to eat?
Mm.
Or what are you going to eat? Where are you going to eat it? And then am I
That's the
deserving of this?
foundation.
Mhm.
That's the base, the foundation. Lifting up
Exactly.
from there.
So, interacting with other people in a positive way,
Mhm.
having that support system, and unified
Mhm.
over various things. So, and then from there, how you feel about yourself, how you present yourself to the world, how you dress, how you transport around
Yeah.
the community, how you um can explain yourself to the world or navigate different problems. And then your purpose, that's all these things coming together, and how you feel about yourself and your environment. That's imperative to who we
Confidence.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah, your ego.
Yeah.
And if you're on the streets and you're struggling and you're suffering, your ego's hurt. It's damaged. And one of our clients, she said the toughest part of her day was putting on her makeup because she had to when she was homeless, she had to find an empty storefront where she didn't think employees were in, just to draw on her eyebrows. And so she started off her day feeling embarrassed every day,
Yeah.
because it was a big production,
Yeah.
right? And imagine having it, in a swoosh.
Yeah.
It would look like my makeup.
Yeah.
And um, these small things build up to how we present ourselves for that day and how we just move forward as individuals, how we interact with others. And so the basis of our organization is to really meet people where they're at, love them for who they are, and find the greatest quality of life given whatever circumstances are present. Now, there is a little bit of an accountability factor in there too. Our clients have to have a mental health diagnosis to be in our program. It can be self reported because oftentimes things go undiagnosed or misdiagnosed or can develop. If you are homeless for any period of time, you have a higher chance at developing a mental illness.
Mm.
Now think about when you're trying to satiate your personal space hula hoop needs, immediate safety, and then okay, I need to eat, I need to stay out of the rain, I need to go to the bathroom,
Mhm.
and
So much to think about that
yeah,
most of us don't on a day-to-day basis.
exactly.
We take for granted almost.
Mhm. How can you possibly start to think about those higher purpose needs when you're just in these really short term
Mhm.
needs? So, our homes are providing a safe and functional environment with support. So, you can really start saying, what are my hobbies? Can I
Mm.
explore
Mhm.
that? What is my fashion?
Mm.
How can I explore that instead of being given things?
Yeah.
What's my right to choose? What am I going to choose? How is that going to develop? What time do I want to get up at? When am I going to brush my teeth? Do I brush my hair before I brush
Mhm.
my teeth? Or do I take a shower
Yeah.
and then,
Just the control over your decisions.
exactly. Autonomy is
Yeah.
so important. And when you're on the streets and your body's in fight or flight trying to satiate these short-term needs, you can't
Really make
realistically.
progress and get
Mhm.
to that point where you're
Exactly.
like, who am I? Or what I do? Where would I
Mhm.
be? What would I
Yeah.
wear?
Think about everybody passing by you and judging your life in that moment,
Mhm.
saying, "I know what economic status you're in.
Yeah.
You're homeless."
Yeah.
Or there are a ton of other people who don't look homeless, and they are. That's
Mhm.
the hidden homeless. That's
Mhm.
me and my mother and autistic brother living in the car. There are a lot of people living in their
Mhm.
vehicles. There are a lot of people at the hospital, or in jail, or staying on somebody
Mhm.
else's couch, or just something that's not long term and stable, that are just ready to hit street homelessness,
Yeah.
or they might be in limbo for some time. So it's difficult to get people to understand that homelessness isn't always chronic street homelessness. Think about how far you have to fall before you're literally on that sidewalk,
Mhm.
where how many resources you have to really drain to get to
Yeah,
that point.
abandon or not having. I've had that thought several times in my life where I just feel so grateful that I always feel like I have somewhere to go. I have family, I have friends. And it's just not a thought in my mind that that could ever happen to me. And there are a lot of people think like that too. That's obviously nice, but then it is one of those where, and when I do pass someone on the street that is homeless, my immediate thought is, how did they get there?
Mhm.
What's their journey? What's their story? It's not like oh, to that, person that can't or doesn't have the motivation to do anything. But I do want to go back to something you said of, homelessness, you're more inclined to develop mental
Mhm.
illness. With all of this, I mean, what are the chances of that being opposite or backwards?
Oh, 100%. I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
Because if you're mentally ill, you have a greater chance of becoming homeless.
Yeah.
Think about how many potential bridges might have been burned,
Mm.
how many people they've called through their support
Mhm.
system. And it's hard to deal with. It's as the individual that's experiencing it. and any of the support system, which the support system could be great, but, they're tired of it
Yeah.
or they don't know how to handle it. Now, what happens when someone is just so critically depressed that they can't bring themselves out and
Mm.
do what seems so obvious to everybody
Mhm.
else, right?
Right, right.
And what happens when it's something that is like schizophrenia, where someone's experiencing maybe auditory hallucination, something of that nature, saying, don't get up and go to the bus and go to school, like you guys sit here, you have these like conflicting
Yeah.
things, which I can only learn about through a bit through our
Yeah,
clients.
to your own clients.
So, it can be cyclical in that sense where, if you have an instance of homelessness, you have a greater chance at at developing a mental
Mhm.
illness, at least PTSD at the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And if you have a mental illness, you have a greater chance of becoming homeless. So our client, Nick, who recently he had a small feature in a documentary that aired on PBS
Mhm.
called The Sarasota Experience.
Mhm.
Um, he went through oh, there he is. Yeah,
Aw.
fabulous. So, that's us on the red carpet. That was so nice for him to have
I
that.
know. My goodness.
Like, I
Yeah,
don't have
what's
kids,
Nick's
but,
story?
oh, he's just, he went through 19 different foster homes, and I think you and Tyler got to work with him at
I didn't
the
get to
home.
work with him. Tyler did, but I did meet him at the auction.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, Nick's one of our clients who went through 19 different foster homes and suffered horrific abuse and neglect. And he became homeless after that period of time. And even if you have a good experience in foster care,
Mm.
you lose your support system after that.
Yeah. So was
Who
that
do
at
you call?
18?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at 18.
Yeah.
You're out of foster care once you're 18,
Yeah.
correct?
You
Yeah.
age out.
Age out, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so he was homeless for 10 years. And in those 10 years, he was arrested 45 times.
God.
And, things outdoor lodging, trespassing, open container, all
Mhm.
these things that happen oftentimes when you're homeless.
Mhm.
And just imagine being arrested that consistently. And he's struggling with his schizophrenia.
Mm.
He's trying to self medicate because forget trying to take medication on the streets. Your stuff's getting stolen all the time. You can't make doctor's appointments regularly, even if it is your intention to. Okay,
Mhm.
suddenly it's raining.
Mhm.
How are you going to get to the bus
Yeah.
stop? And then, um, so he's 31 now. Okay.
Wow.
So he's had a really tough life.
Yeah.
And
You look so happy there, though.
yeah, he deserves it.
Yeah.
And he has such a valuable insight on what it's like to be homeless, what it's not like to be
Mhm.
homeless. He told me one of the biggest misconceptions about him and being homeless was, and people would tell him, dude, you stink. Like, get off the
Mhm.
bus, you stink. And, quit taking up the sidewalk, you stink. He said the single thing he wanted to do most was shower.
Mm.
That's all he wanted to
Yeah.
do. He did not want to stink. He wanted to, regularly wear
Yeah.
deodorant and, these things that were not accessible to him. Like, he could get a stick of deodorant, but someone's going to steal his
Mhm.
backpack. And, you've got a decision. Do you start scrapping with someone who's going to steal your backpack and risk getting in trouble again? Or do you just let it go? Is that not the hill to die on? And imagine having all your worldly possessions lost, stolen, or rained on over and over and over
The
and over
the
again.
defeat.
Yeah. Your
Sure.
your birth certificate, you know, your medication, all these different
Mhm.
things being lost over and over and over again. And you can't get a job unless you have a place to live and an ID.
Mhm. Mhm.
You
That's the bare
can't,
minimum, yeah.
right? And you can't get an
Oh.
ID unless you have a place to live and two other forms of ID. So,
Uh,
and you're losing these things over
mhm.
and over and over again. And so Nick has a lot of wonderful conversations with the community about what it's like to be homeless, what it isn't. what it's like to have schizophrenia and what it isn't. And from what I've come to understand, it's about managing it, just like diabetes. You have to pay attention to your symptoms and you have to advocate for yourself with your doctor, with your support system. Say, hey, these are the things that are happening, or these are the things that are not happening. Like, hey, I'm starting to lose sleep. Maybe this isn't my therapeutic dose.
Yeah.
And to really advocate and adjust as time goes on, because there's no one silver bullet solution. That, it's about monitoring and management, and that support system helps you do that. So today he's working on his GED. He's
Amazing.
about to take the last portion at the end of this month. His tutors are two ballerinas from the Sarasota Ballet.
Aw.
And I got to tell you,
Cute.
you'll enjoy this. The day of the art auction, because he made a piece and he wanted to speak about his piece. And two things happened. A woman called me because I'd just written an article for the Sarasota Herald Tribune about individuals like Nick and what we can do to help. And she called up and said, hey, Nick was my student 19 years ago. And she was the one who noticed bruises and things and said she sounded the alarm that placement wasn't a good one. And so she did the mandatory reporting, and then she never got to hear what happened to him until she read that article.
Oh my gosh.
So
Wow.
I said, do you want to come meet him? If he's okay with that? And she said, oh my goodness, she really wanted to.
Yeah.
And he said, absolutely. Let me just change my artist bio. And he changed one sentence to say that there was a teacher that made a difference in his life. And they had a reunion. They got to hug.
That night I was there. Oh my goodness.
They had a reunion. And teachers don't get to hug their students. And after 19 years, she finally got to see that he was going to be all right.
Wow, it's amazing.
Yeah. And then he called that morning before the art auction and said, I have a problem. I said, what? Thinking, all right, he's speaking in front of a bunch of people,
Doesn't have an outfit, needs a new tie, something.
Well, he said, I went to the ballet last night to see my tutors in their new dance, and I'm afraid people are going to see me in the same tie at the ballet. I thought, oh my goodness. I'm like, Nick, I'll get you a different tie. And I had to get off the phone because they started crying. I thought, how nice is it that he's worried about fashion faux pas rather than
what he's gonna say or being up in front of
where he's gonna
people.
lay his head or how to avoid the police. And he has utmost forgiveness for the police. He whenever he sees them, they cry. They can't believe that it's the same gentleman that they knew, who wasn't so gentlemanly at the time. But they knew deep down he was a good person, but there were things that he was doing that he, under the law needed to be arrested for at the time. So,
and how did you connect with him? How did he get into your program?
He came into our program we've got about 70 different referral sources, and one of them is the mental health jail diversion program. It's called Comprehensive Treatment Court, and it takes low-level offenders that are going through the court system and says, hey, maybe you're not a criminal. Maybe you just maybe you're homeless and maybe you have a mental illness and you need access to the supports to do things different. Our board member, Judge Erica Quartermain, actually started that up many years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, so it came full circle when she was able to join the board. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so it approaches people in jail and says, hey, okay, do you have a mental illness, or is there reasonable certainty one might exist? And are you homeless? And if they answer those two questions, then they have an opportunity to have their low-level charges dismissed. If they take the housing, they take medication, they take therapy, they become eventually financially independent. And it's, it can be a long program. It depends on the individual.
Yeah.
And so he came to us through that program. And at first I thought, this guy's never going to make it.
No.
He had experienced such a tough life,
Yeah.
but I love being proved wrong.
And I'm sure
And
you like proving it too.
yeah, now, he's on the red carpet. So I'm like,
That's
this is great.
amazing.
Yeah.
That takes me into kind of go through your Second Heart Home program because you have something very similar. I know everyone's individual and everyone's needs are different, but is there a certain structure that you follow? What's the first thing you would do if someone came in?
Mm.
And what is there a first protocol? Is it mental? Is it physical? To kind of take us through that.
Yeah. So, first thing is you have to have the houses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they have to be safe
Okay, so
environments.
this is through the houses. The mental or the Second Heart Homes program is only if you're within the house.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have 8 houses
Yeah.
now, and no mortgages,
Mm,
and we don't take any city, state, or federal funding.
that's
It's
amazing.
all individual contributions, and private sector funding, like, maybe a church or, a foundation type
Mhm.
of thing. Um, and so when people apply for our program, they have to go through a screening. We have to determine first and foremost, is this the right program for them? If someone's in active detox, they need to go to a medical facility. We need to make sure that they either have a mental illness or maybe have something that can be treated. Anyone who says, "Hey, I just need a place. I don't need a program." Well, that's not necessarily the right
Yeah.
place for them.
Yeah.
And we try to shoot them towards one of our many partners
Mhm.
that might be able to
A
help them.
shelter or something.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
depends on the situation.
Yeah.
So then they also have to have a commitment to addressing their mental health and physical health and developing these habits and hobbies, right? That
Mm.
only a stable environment with supports can help you achieve. If someone does not want to address those needs, then they do not qualify for a program
Not
at
the
that
program
time.
for you. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully at some point they either self-resolve or they decide that they are ready.
Mm.
I mean, think about how many times that very first gentleman in 25 years, how many
Mm.
times people might have tried to help him, but maybe he wasn't
Yeah.
ready.
That's the first step.
Mhm.
Complete acceptance, ownership,
Mhm.
and accepting and saying, okay, I need the help.
Mhm.
I think if you don't have that, you don't have a solid foundation to build
Yes.
upon.
Exactly. That's so true. If you don't accept that you need the help,
Mhm.
then this isn't the program for
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yet.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, you're not a lost hope.
Yeah,
You come
no
back.
one's completely
Yeah.
lost. So then as they're being screened, once our operations team decides, yes, you're coming into the program, then we start with, okay, do you have a primary care physician? If not, then let's get one established. And what are your medications you're taking? Do you have a routine to take them? Here's a medication box to track them.
Mhm.
Here's a day planner. Let's start building goals. Let's make this a little less scary and let's start making this like systematic and digestible,
Mm.
right? You can start off with saying, "Hey, I'm going to brush my teeth in the morning." Guess what? Once you do that, you get a little check mark.
Yeah.
Then you do it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people might just say, "Okay, hygiene," and that includes multiple things. Some people don't need to put that on their list. It depends on the person.
Yeah.
We did a 13-week poetry workshop with a gentleman named Cedric, and one of our clients wrote a poem called Feral because he said it was like being a feral animal coming into a new home and essentially having to be domesticated and say, "I'm not out in the woods anymore."
Yeah.
Um, Bathroom time is not just a time of opportunity. It's,
Mm.
hey, when you need to.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Everyday life. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're looking at the medical portion, how, the physical and the mental. We have a volunteer doctor, Dr. Sean Downing, who volunteers as emergency primary care, who, let's say someone comes into our program and their psychiatric appointment isn't until like 2 months, but
Mm.
meanwhile, they're about to be out of their medication.
Yeah.
He'll look at
You
the
know how to navigate
history,
that.
make sure it makes sense, and be able to prescribe survive that until they can get in there. And oftentimes that's what is diverting a crisis before it starts. When our care managers will work with our clients, and they see our clients 365 days a year. Every single property is seen daily. We don't live on the properties. Our clients are expected to be independent. We are just there to guide them to the right decisions, give them the right tools to make the right decisions. And that's through seeing everyone on a daily basis. Joe may not need something that day, but tomorrow he might. And to know that somebody's coming by to check in on him, say, hey, Joe, you're not signing up for grocery shopping, and you don't have any groceries on your shelf in the refrigerator. What's going on? Oh, you're not eating as much. Oh, you're not taking your medication because, you said it gives you a bad stomach ache. Well, let's get into the doctor and talk about those stomach aches and see, you don't just need to cold turkey your medication.
Just a lot of accountability, which is good for at first, at the beginning. How long would you say a typical client, how long would that last to have that full accountability?
I mean, that's every day. Someone's going to come in and check and see. And, we'd love to have a place to move clients out to at some point, but right now that's not the reality in life. There is nowhere for anyone to move into.
Yeah, with your 8 homes, 49 people, so you don't rotate them out. Those 49 people have been there in the homes.
Some people have rotated out.
Okay.
Some people have got their own places, moved in with a significant other.
Oh, great. Okay.
Reunited with family. Once a family kind of sees, hey, now that they're stable, this is manageable. Yeah, you can come live with me now.
Okay. Good.
We have several clients who want their own places, but right now that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
With the supply and demand of the economy, it's just not going to happen right now. So we've taken a stance, which kind of from the first day, it was like, why would we kick out anyone who is doing the things they need to do? I mean, we're not asking a whole lot. It's maintain your sobriety, achieve goals, and do the things you need to do.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to do in everyday life,
Exactly.
right? Just push through. We have these different goals and achieve them. But we're their cheerleading squad. We say, hey, what do you want to accomplish? Here's some ways. Which way do you want to choose to accomplish it? Because it's entirely up to them. And then, okay, now we've accomplished it. What's next? So we help them understand what is a milestone too, because maybe they haven't had a support system to say, hey, good job on that.
Yeah. There's always going to be a milestone. There's always going to be the next thing. So that's a never-ending thing. They could accomplish one thing, and then, all right, let's move on to the next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a gentleman who every single day he could not make his bed. So I would go in because I used to provide all the day-to-day services. Now we have a whole team. It's much better. I'm just a good guy all the time. It's great. But I would say, okay, Fred, you get that side. As we're putting, the fitted sheet on, I said, I'll get this side, but you strike first. And then he would, and then we'd make his bed, and then every day for like a year. It's just the reality. And then one day I walked in and it was made. And I cried and cried. He's like, what's wrong with you? And I said, you made your bed, Fred. And he said, oh, I did. I said, this is wonderful. He said, I never even really noticed. He's like, thanks for not giving up on me. My mom used to take me by the hair and smash my face into the wall, and for simple things like this, and here you are, you want to throw a party, and check goal, what's next? And so and part of that's caring for a home too. How much is too much for the washing machine?
What's the difference between dish soap and dishwasher soap? Laundry detergent.
So we're, landlords, but we're also, cheerleaders, and I have a whole team that does all the day-to-day work with the clients, and I deal mostly with design, finding homes, so kind of procurement, design, working with wonderful volunteers like you and Tyler. And
that was stuff, but I need to do it more.
Yeah.
Get involved more.
Well, it was sure at the time I needed you.
I
Just like, come
know.
on, let's go.
Woo, those dressers, those IKEA dressers, man, they will rock your world.
Yeah. And Tyler, he came in, he was shoveling, gravel and painting, and him and Nick were just like, and that's what it's about when our clients also come back and volunteer too. Nick feels so good that he's like, I went from not having a house to making a home for women that, are very vulnerable out there. And I love that he made that connection and feels good about it, as he should.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to help a lot of people.
Awesome. So 8 homes, 49 people, 49 beds, correct? But you've helped way more people or have gotten more people off the streets than
Definitely.
that, correct? Yeah.
Yeah. Some people use the program as a stepping stone to get into their own place, start to build some stability, and then maybe their next goal is to get their own place. We want to support people and what their goals are. And if someone's goal isn't to get into their own place, then we just think, well, maybe not right now, but maybe later. I mean, that gentleman for 25 years was homeless, and imagine how many people tried to help him, and it fell through for various reasons. And so that's it's not giving up on people even when they're doing their worst. We oftentimes prevent a crisis before it starts because we're there to really listen to our clients, show them how to advocate for themselves, and turn that page on homelessness by being empowered. We just partnered with the ballet to bring tickets to our clients.
Oh my gosh.
And how amazing is that? Because me and some of the girls had a trip to TJ Maxx and trying to focus on what you're going to be comfortable in at the ballet. And I'm like, girl, you're going to be cold in that halter top. And
it's cute,
Emily Post says no.
Yeah, that's cute. Let's get some sweaters.
Yeah. So listening to people, their needs, and giving them the access and opportunity to be part of the community again, or sometimes for the first time, and just say, I'm worth it. And we can have our bad days. That's fine, but it's how we deal with them and don't let them drive us so far into the dirt that we can't get out.
Yeah. Well, you're obviously doing so much in the community for Sarasota since I've just met you, I've heard your name multiple times, and we've connected with so many of the same people. What is next for Second Heart Homes?
Ooh, okay. Next. Well, we want to continue to find more homes and open them, and provide these really inspired environments for our clients. You can't be anything unless you're safe, like end of story. And then you can start to grow from there. So we want to open more homes. We want more collaborations, things like the ballet. We have an art class. I think one's happening right now at one of our houses. They're doing I'm going to pronounce it wrong, so I'm not going to say it, but they're doing Japanese jewelry, special type. So
we'll look that up for you and put it in the show notes what that was.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funnier story about that. So we can't do it all alone. So we want to meet more people who can help us do it. Whether that is working with clients, providing other programs, or behind the scenes. Anyone who wants to help fundraise,
yes,
we need your help.
Hint.
Yes, exactly. And there's a matching donation program through flanzertrust.org, and they match all donations from $20 to $500 a month. And then they will honor that up to $3,000 a year per individual. So anyways, had to get the plug in. But we need volunteers for various things. It's not always working with clients. It could be when a house comes up, because that's a very targeted thing. Hey, we just closed. We need to open this day. Let's go.
Yeah, that was when I went in, it was considered almost done. And I was like, whoa, wow, I got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Home remodeling is serious business. And it comes together, so quickly. and you saw pictures of the final product, and we
So
were able to open in
beautiful.
time.
Gosh,
Yeah, yeah. I
that
was
was great.
so happy we
Yeah.
were able to meet that deadline. That's the shortest amount of time we've had to open a home. Um, and so what's next is I want to change the public's opinion, the stigma on homelessness and mental illness, and think about what we can do long term to help. There are definitely lots of nice short term things we can do, but what can we do in the long term? That's by supporting organizations like ours and others, so we can grow and really meet the need. We had 219 women apply for our program last
Mm,
year. Okay.
gosh, and how
We
many
don't
did
have
you
that many
take?
beds.
Yeah, how many did you take?
Maximum, and so at the time we only had 12 beds, and so some of them cycled, and but if we have more capacity, then we can help more.
Yeah.
And maybe others get inspired to do it too, or to kind of move off, hey, I'm going to go feed on this day, to, okay, what could I do that could be more long term and transformative? And maybe there's a healthy balance between those things. We invited people to make their special dish on Thanksgiving and Christmas for our clients, and bring that to help us start tradition with our clients instead of necessarily going to feeding on the street every time.
Yeah.
So, if anyone wants to talk about what those things are, I'm happy to have those
Awesome.
conversations.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Awesome. All right. The last question I always ask my guests, and you kind of just answered it a little bit, but I want to ask you, what do you know for sure? So if you had a megaphone to the world and you could say anything and everyone in the world was listening to you, Megan, what do you want them to know? Just one thing.
Ooh. uh, Measure twice, cut once. I hang out with a lot of handymen, and man, does that keep proving itself.
Okay, one more, one more.
Oh, live with light and love and
Mhm.
understanding, and try to put yourself in other people's shoes. I'll even draw it back. There are kind of we're stronger with unity, right?
Yeah.
And that unity is love. And there are two types of people when it comes to homelessness: people who are very empathetic and want to help, maybe they're actually helping; people who maybe aren't so empathetic, maybe they've had a lot of valid things happen to them that made their position that way. Maybe they're a restaurant owner and their customers are being accosted, or someone's using the bathroom on their doorstep. I mean, those are very valid reasons to be upset. But at the end of the day, both parties want the same thing. They want people to be off the streets. So if we paid more attention to what we want in a unified fashion with love and understanding and measuring twice and cutting,
I got
then
it.
the world would be a better place.
Yeah, I
So,
love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on
thank
and sharing more
you.
about your story. I'm going to put all the information about Megan in the show notes about her organization, how you can be a part of it, how you can donate. And thank you so much.
Thank you.